Creating money is building a system that generates money. It's a form of discipline. It's a skill.
What do you see as the number one thing holding people back from having success in their life?
The number one trait of all that succeed is and it pays freaking dividends.
No one's ever said that before. Today's guest on Purpose is Leila Hormozi, self-made entrepreneur and investor who's built and scaled companies worth hundreds of millions of dollars. If you're someone who wants to grow your income, raise your standards, and build real wealth without losing your values, this conversation is essential. Please welcome to On Purpose, Leila Hormozi. Leila, it's great to have you here.
It's so exciting to be here.
Yeah, it's very rare I get to interview someone and then interview their partner.
Yeah.
And the fact that we had Alex on the show last year and we didn't get to meet, and I'm so glad I get to meet you today. And it's so fun that I get to interview you both within 12 months.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear what your conclusion is after you've done both.
Yeah. So great to have you here. Like I said to you earlier, our audience is so aspirational. They're really excited about life. They want to do better, but things keep holding them back. And the question I wanted to start with you, I feel like we have this group of people today who really believe that they have to have confidence in order to make a difference in their life. They've got to build this skill and they're trying to figure out how to build confidence. Could you define for me what confidence is to you?
When I hear people say that they want to build confidence, the reason why it's so difficult to do that is because confidence it's an output. It's not an input. And so when you think about it, you don't get confidence by trying to be confident. Oftentimes, confidence comes after you are competent in something. And so for me, I didn't realize that. In fact, when I was 19 and I was overweight and I was drinking and I was doing drugs and I was just like completely spiraling, I remember I literally had a mirror in my bathroom and I had affirmations written all over it. And I would sit there and I would be saying these affirmations to myself. I'd be like, I'm beautiful. I can do this. I work hard. I have money. I'm wealthy. And I would read them. And I remember just thinking like, none of this is true. And it felt really weird to me because I kept thinking like, this is supposed to work. This is what I'm supposed to do. And then like nothing would happen. And I was like, why am I not feeling confident? I was insanely insecure. And by the way, like people that know me very well will say like, you still are quite insecure. Like it's in different areas. I kept waiting to feel ready. And then I realized you don't ever feel ready until the second time that you do something. And that's because in order to feel confident, which is feeling ready, in my opinion, you have to build competence in something. And the only way that you build competence is by building evidence for yourself to understand that you can actually do the thing. In order to do that, you have to pay the price, which is by having never done the thing before. And so it wasn't until I said, I'm so sick of like being in my head, trying to think my way into being confident. Instead, I need to act my way into confidence. How would I do that? Okay, well, I have to get competent at something. Well, at that point in my life, I was like, I'm not really that good at anything. I wasn't really that skilled at anything. So it would also make sense that you're not confident if you don't have that many skills, right? And so I learned sales. That was the first thing I learned. I moved across the country. I didn't know anybody. I had $5,000 and I was like, I'm going to learn how to do this. I was like viscerally opposed to the thought of sales, but I was like, I need to understand this. I need to understand these core skills. Otherwise, I'm never going to be able to build a business. And so I drove out to California. I found the closest gym within walking distance. I applied to all of them, right? And then I took the one that was the absolute closest and I got the job. And I remember I started and they were like, cool. So you understand how to help people lose weight and how to help people get healthy, but like you need to know how to market and sell yourself. And so that meant like walking to Whole Foods and trying to solicit people at the Whole Foods. That meant like when somebody was doing cardio, going up to them on the machine and being like, do you need help? And I remember the first time I walked up to a lady on the treadmill. It was the first person I ever walked up to. I'm telling my boss at this time, I'm like, dude, I don't know what I'm doing. He's like, listen, it's not gonna be that bad. What's she gonna say? The first person I walk up to, of course, she looks at me and she was like, off. And I was like, ah. And I remember I ran into the bathroom and I sat on the toilet.
In Whole Foods?
Yes. And I was like, I literally think I'm gonna have a panic attack. Like I felt so bad. I felt like my stomach was in my throat. I remember telling myself, I was like, you can't let yourself down. You got to make this worth it. Like you drove out here, you quit everything. You told everyone that you were going to do this. You told everyone you were going to become an entrepreneur and have a business. So I was like, okay, I'm going to focus on what I can do. And so I focused on how do I get as many no's as possible. And through getting all the no's and being rejected and seeing that I could handle it, which I was terrified of rejection prior to this, by the way, like bullied in school, not cool, like didn't have that many friends, like not cute. Like it was just the whole thing. That was what built my confidence. And I think that so often we think that the thing that's going to make us confident is the thing that feels good. But what's good for us often feels bad in the moment. And what feels good in the moment is often bad for us in the long term. And that's really like the biggest lesson I learned. And then I realized I was like, all the times that I built the most confidence in myself, I wasn't focused on being confident. I was focused on becoming the best version of myself I could be, which meant that I was becoming more competent. And then by consequence, I became confident. I never thought about, I got to get more confident. After I realized, I was like, it just happens naturally if you do these things.
That's such a powerful answer. And I just want to break that down for people. You said, in order to feel confident, first we have to develop competence, which gives you the evidence, which then builds confidence. And what I really appreciate about that answer is so many of us think confidence comes first. And like you said, you were saying the affirmations in the mirror, you're trying to believe it, whatever it may be. Yeah. And the reality is that what you actually needed was humility. Because what you just said is you went up to someone at Whole Foods and you try and sell something or whatever it may be, and they rejected you. And I think that's what's so interesting is that what we actually need is being okay with being bad at something.
Yeah.
Rather than the desire to want to feel good at it before you've ever even done it. And that applies to everything. The first time you go to the gym, you won't have a clue what to do. The first time you go on a date, you'll be confused. The first time you start a new job in sales where you've never made a sales call or a cold call, you won't know what to do. And so it's actually the skill we should be developing is not confidence. It should be wanting to be bad at something and being okay with being humble and saying, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's why you just said, which I love, is I still feel insecure about different things because there are different things where you're still at the beginning of the journey.
1,000%. I love that you said that because I studied a lot of psychology, and there's one thing that I realized. I was like, where do so much of my insecurity come from? And so much of my insecurity came from wanting to be perfect, wanting to like create this illusion that I was like really good at something. And I had this motto that I've shared with a lot of people on my team where instead of trying to be good, I say, how can I be bad? And so I'm like, I'm going to try and be a bad boss. I'm going to try and be a bad friend. And people are always so confused about it. They're like, why would you try and be bad? I'm like, because in trying to be bad, it means that I actually take the risks required to be good. And if I don't take the risks, then I'm never going to get it. It's like, I had someone that interviewed me not that long ago and they said, hey, I saw from your first company some reviews on Glassdoor from 2016. They were pretty bad. So, do you think what you did really worked? And I said, do you think that I would have the massive success that I have at this young age right now if I wasn't willing to fail like that? I'm fine with looking bad. I'm fine with messing up. I'm writing a book right now. The whole thing is all lessons and failures because what's been so painful for me is that I think when I was on my journey of like, I want to be better. I want to be a high performer. I want to start a business. Like I want to get in shape. I want to do all this stuff. Everything was so curated and fake. And everyone was talking about like the Lamborghini and they've got this crazy house. They've got this vessel of like perfection. And it was so hard for me to relate to people. And so also like, as I've gone through this journey and starting to make content, I'm like, the one thing I never want people to think is that in order to have confidence, you're going to be perfect to have it. It's like, no, you have to have the bad in order to have the good. And I think it's just, are you willing to? I think so much of it comes down to, are you willing to experience the emotions that you don't want in order to get the ones that you do want? And I think a lot of people say that they will and say that they're willing, but they're not. Because when everything inside of you feels like you're going to die, a lot of people run the other way. Because it might be stepping on stage makes you feel like you're going to die. Like maybe running a board meeting, maybe pitching somebody for the first time, selling something. Like I know that feeling where you like, want to crawl out of your skin. And I think people have to take a really hard look in the mirror and say like, am I willing to feel that in order to get this thing I want on the other side?
Absolutely. So then the next question is, how do you build that mindset that says, I welcome this opportunity, even though I may get laughed at, may get rejected, may feel like a failure? What is that then? What do we need to work on instead of confidence?
For me, a lot of it has been acceptance more than it has been anything else, because I think that so much of what I think pained me in my early life before I was able to have the success I had was that I felt like there was something wrong with feeling insecure, with feeling bad, with negative feelings. And I actually see that a lot right now, which is we have, and I think labels are really useful in a lot of situations, but I think that we sometimes tend to use them too much. I realized I had these beliefs that feeling immense anxiety, feeling terrified of something, feeling depressed when I didn't get what I wanted or I wasn't doing well, I felt like those were all really bad feelings that need to be avoided. And it wasn't until I changed the narrative around that and I said, I had this realization. I was super anxious when I was trying to lose weight and I had just stopped drinking and doing drugs. And I remember it was like a Thursday and everyone's drinking and all stuff. And I realized I had been feeling so terrible when I was doing that, right? And I remember sitting there in my dorm and I was like, I still feel anxious. And then I realized, I was like, wow, I've been doing all of this stuff, like buffering, suppressing, and numbing to avoid these emotions that I still feel. In fact, I think they might be stronger. And it sent me down this entire journey to understand, like, well, what is this relationship that I have with myself? And I had these beliefs that didn't serve me, which was essentially like all of these emotions I labeled as bad, maybe because of past experiences I had that felt really scary and terrible, and maybe because of things I saw with other people. But until I was willing to say, I accept all of these in, and these are okay, and I'm totally willing to feel these feelings in my life, I wasn't able to achieve anything when it came to disciplining myself, confidence, etc. Because oftentimes in pursuing something, that means that you're growing. And when you're growing, you're stepping into unknown territory. When you step in unknown territory, your brain freaks out and it's like, I can't predict what's going to happen next. So I'm going to try and scare you so that you go back to the comfort cave, right? And every time it would happen, I would say, cool, I'm going back to the comfort cave. But when I finally said, what if I befriended these emotions? What if I said, I will take them with me? And I talk about this a lot, which is like, I see it like anxiety used to be, I would be in the car with anxiety, right? Anxiety would be in the driver's seat, driving us in some direction in my life. And it would be dictating where I was going to go. Well, I still have anxiety in the car with me. The difference now is that I'm the one driving. It's sitting in the passenger seat or the back seat. But I'm still saying where I'm going to go. It's not like the feeling has gone away, but my relationship with it has changed. And befriending those very like negative emotions, that has allowed me to do pretty much everything in life. And I think that's why I love growing a business. That's why I love, I set out on making content, all these things. They were things that I felt like, wow, if I do those things, I will have to become the type of person who is able to really befriend more of those emotions. And that has made me more confident than any affirmation or any applause or any comment on Instagram has ever made me. It's just been doing that, being utterly terrified, being okay with being utterly terrified, and then doing the thing anyways. And then afterwards, having that feeling of absolute relief and then proud of myself to be like, you did it. Like you were terrified and you did it anyways. And that's been like the key to everything for me. It's always been anytime I get stuck in life, it's like I look at where I'm at and I pull myself out and I'm like, you're not leaning into it. You're trying to avoid the emotion. And I have to catch myself because our minds are tricky and say, nope, you got to go into it. It's like I say that get out of the comfort cave and get out into the world.
I love the visual of you driving and anxiety being in the back seat because I love the idea of how we let anxiety have the wheel and then drive our life in all different directions. And you're so right that I, as in me included, I still feel anxiety today. I still feel insecure today. I still feel like I have to prove myself today. All those things.
Yeah.
And it's those things that you've learned how to use, engage, discuss, debate, discover what they're really saying, what the signal is, but they don't disappear. And I think that desire we all have is that the day they disappear, I will discover what my passion is and live my purpose and whatever else it may be. It's like, well, that doesn't happen for anyone.
Good luck.
Yeah, I don't know anyone, even I've been fortunate enough to meet so many amazing people. And it's like, there's even the best athletes in the world that have won everything still feel scared stepping out into the court. And you could be like, well, why? Because they've done it a million times. And it's like, no, this is a different day. Their body's different. Their energy's different meaning, more stakes.
Yeah.
Everything changes. And so this belief that we all have is that one day we'll get to a day where from that day onwards, everything will be easy. And I don't know anyone who feels that way because they're just playing in a different league. No. And so you're just going up the leagues and every league has different challenges. What do you feel? What do you see? You work with so many young people, business leaders, CEOs, you have people of different organizations coming to you for advice. What do you see as the number one thing holding people back from having success in their life?
So often, people come to me and they're like, I just want you to tell me the marketing hack or the sales hack, and I'm like, listen, that's where I started. I started in sales and marketing. The reason I talk about everything else I talk about is because I realized that that's not what ends businesses. So I'll give you a story to demonstrate this.
Please.
We had a company that we worked with, and that company was like crazy growth. Like we started with them, they were doing like 2 million a year. Within 3 years, that company is doing 90 million a year, crushing it. Absolutely absurd. they get a threat from a competitor. That competitor starts to point out things in their marketing on their website, all this stuff like of all these things that like they're going to try and take them down for, and they're going to copy, and their competitors start copying other stuff and then threatening other things. Their competitor then, serves them with like a lawsuit and is like, hey, I'm going to sue you for this thing. And we're like, dude, they have no grounds. Like, don't even worry about it. And I know, because like when I had my first lawsuit, I'm like up at night, like, oh my gosh, this is so scary. And nothing happened. So they get into this lawsuit. Within 6 months of the lawsuit being served, the company was at zero. The company was not at zero because of the lawsuit. In fact, the lawsuit ended and they won. The company was at zero because the founder, she was so unstable that she ended up shutting down the business because she couldn't handle it anymore. And I remember being on the phone with her, and she literally said, she gives me all these reasons, right? It's the marketing, it's the sales, it's this that they're giving me, it's this piece that they're serving me. And it all came down to, I was like, but you could do this, but you could do that, but we can do this. Like, please trust me. This is why I'm your partner, because I can get you through this. Like, I've been in many lawsuits. And she was like, I just can't handle it. And it was like in that moment, I remember I was like, the number one reason that people cannot grow a business and that they don't succeed is because they cannot manage their own mind. They cannot manage their mind and they cannot manage their emotions. And I've just seen it so many times. Like, the market doesn't put you out of business. You put you out of business. The same thing happened during COVID. I mean, we had thousands at that time of customers that were business owners that we worked with. And I saw the amount of people that COVID didn't end their business. Their inability to manage their emotions during COVID is what ended their business. Because eventually they would just throw in the towel and they would make up some excuse outside of themselves. It was the market, it was the lawsuit, it was the fact that they told us they had to be 6 feet apart, whatever it might be. And it always came down to the fact that they didn't want to tolerate those feelings anymore. They had a low frustration tolerance. They couldn't tolerate the feelings of uncertainty. They couldn't tolerate the feelings of frustration. They couldn't tolerate the feelings of unpredictability. And I've just seen every big business that I've seen go down, which I've seen, I would say 5 more businesses besides one I just told you about. It was always because the founder didn't have enough emotional management. They could not manage themselves emotionally during those turmoil, like those situations that felt like turmoil. And I will tell you, there was a time where I was in so much pain. I was working from the couch every day. I had 4 lawsuits on my plate. I was having issues with some stuff personally with my family. And in my business, I had 12 direct reports. I had 4 new people I just hired, and I was performing 3 days a week. And the only reason that I was able to do that was I was like, I am going to double down on making sure that I can manage this. And it was the hardest season of my life, but I got through it and I'm better for it. That's what breaks most people. It's when everything collides at once. And then how do I deal with the uncertainty? How do I deal with the frustration, the anger, the anxiety? And then they find some reason outside of themselves and they point to it and say, that's why it didn't work. Every time.
I did not expect that answer.
Really?
Yeah, it's a great answer. I really like that. I couldn't agree with you more. And now I'm starting to think about so many people that I know and think about people that even made it and won. And you're absolutely spot on that it is so much to do with the mindset and you choosing whether you're staying in business or not. Talk to me about that first uncertainty you faced, that first lawsuit, that first whatever it was that you decided to choose to answer this question. What was that first moment where you didn't have, now you have all this evidence and competence of dealing with markets changing, managing big teams, acquiring businesses and taking them. Before all of that, the first time you hit uncertainty, how did you manage your mind in order to find the evidence that that was the answer?
When I started my first business, I was 23. And by the age of 24, I had 120 employees. And the business had gone from like 0 to 50 million in like less than 2 years. And so my entire journey of like, one, being very young, having never managed anyone before, having just been this person who was like arrested in drugs and all this stuff, it was the most uncertainty I've ever felt in my life. I mean, to the degree that it was the hardest period of my life because of the amount of uncertainty. It was also where I grew the most because I didn't let it, I think about it like the frog boiling. It's like the water kept getting hotter and I just kept saying like, how do I also raise with the water? And so when I think back to what I was able to do, I had to put in place practices to take care of myself. And it sounds, trite, people say, they're like, oh, taking care of yourself, that's soft. Well, there's nothing soft about winning. So that's what I say in return to that. I learned very early on, like, what are the things that I have to do to maintain my sanity throughout all of this? And so, I remember I would have meetings starting at 8 a.m. and it would be going until, 6 or 7 p.m. And I said, great, then I'm going to get up at 4:30. I'm going to journal. I'm going to walk. I'm going to make breakfast. I'm going to have coffee. I'm going to listen to or meditate, whatever it might be. And then throughout the day, I was like, okay, I need one period between a break here where I can take 10 minutes to get outside, go on a walk. And I have been ruthless about doing that my entire career. I know what I have to do to keep myself in the right mental state. I have to have, I think about it like this. I'm pouring my cup out all day. And I'm also being that person that's there for everybody when it's uncertain. And I know it's uncertain because I'm feeling uncertain about it. I have to fill my cup back up. And it sounds so cheesy, but it has been the key to why I've been able to continue doing this. And I'm obsessed with studying how do people that are high performers I don't care if you can win for 5 years. I really don't. I don't even care if you can win for 10. I'm like, who can win for 30 or 40 years? And I realized that there's a lot of similarities around those people. And so I studied that ruthlessly in my free time, which was when I got up at 4:30 in the morning and after everybody went to sleep at night. And so the biggest thing I noticed is that they will absolutely do the things that they know needed to do to take care of themselves. So I think about it like this. If you saw an athlete that was performing, you've interviewed many of them, right? Let's say it's Michael Jordan, right? And would you expect that he's pushing himself all day? Like he wouldn't take a nap. He wouldn't get a massage. He wouldn't do physical therapy. It's like, no, that's like part of the plan is that there has to be recovery because you're pushing very hard. Your body needs it. I think about business the same way. It's like, what do you do to recover from all the output that you're putting out there? And I realized really early on that in order to deal with the amount of uncertainty I was dealing with, I had to create these anchors for myself where I had felt a sense of stability in my own life. Like I had some sense of control because there's so much we can't control in life. But I had to have these areas where I had these like little nuggets where I could control things and I could bring myself back into the state of mind where I remembered like, why am I doing this? Right. And the reason why is like, it's always been the same for me, which is I want to be the best version of myself I can possibly be. And then people say, well, why would you want to do that? Well, I guess it's my belief about life, which is what else am I going to do until I die? I would like to know what this body and soul are capable of. And so I'm just like, the only thing that will stop me is if I wear myself out. I don't train like it's a marathon. I train like it's a sprint. And that's the biggest thing I've realized over time is I've just seen so many people that they get started in something and then the amount of uncertainty they don't have enough skills to take care of themselves that they end up opting out. So I think about it like this. A lot of people that are high performers, we have these skills. We can push really hard. We can discipline. We can press on the gas. But you also have to have these skills if you're indexing here, which is like, do you know when to rest? Do you know when to take care of yourself? Do you know how to take care of your mindset? Or are you just white knuckling through everything, which that runs out because that's not discipline. That's just willpower, which we have a certain amount of, but I would like to save it for the things that matter, not the things that don't matter. That's been what got me through a lot of times of uncertainty is whenever I have more uncertainty in my life, I say, great, now that I have more uncertainty, what more do I need to do for myself to get through it? And I treat myself like I would treat a friend. It's like, I'd be like, great, I have a therapist, I have coaches, I have mentors, I have people I consult with, I have people I can call, I have friends I can talk to. Like, I try to collect all sorts of support for myself so I can support the amount of uncertainty I have in my life. And if I don't have people to support me, I cannot support the weight of the uncertainty that is in my hands.
It's like when you walk into a building, no one ever goes, this place has amazing foundations.
Yeah.
Right? You've never said that. If you walk inside a beautiful building, whether it's in New York or Singapore or anywhere in the world, you walk in and you go, wow, and you look up and you go, this place is incredible. Like it's so high and it's so beautiful. And then you don't realize that there's these really, really deep foundations. Actually, the taller the building, the deeper and stronger the foundations are, but you don't see them. And it's the same as what you're saying, whether it was waking up at 4:30, journaling, listening, finding space, meditating, whatever your version of it was, that's your foundation. And that's exactly what you just said. The higher I wanted to go, the deeper the foundations have to be. The more people I needed to help me hold that anxiety and hold that uncertainty, which is so powerful because I think so many entrepreneurs believe they just have to do it themselves. That a really good entrepreneur is someone who just does it on their own. And yes, those people weren't helping you build the business, but they were helping you carry your emotions.
Yeah.
And that's such an interesting connection because I think we think of business success as so separate to emotional human connection. And it's, according to you, and I see you shaking your head right now.
It's crazy to me that people think that. Like, it's absolutely crazy to me. And I mean, I will say this, I think that there are people that are anomalies. For the amount of anomalies there are 100 more people for every one that are doing it because they have that kind of support.
Yeah.
And I also think about like, what kind of life do I want to live? And I want to be great. Like, I want to be the best version of myself I can be, but I also don't believe that I need to do it alone. And I don't think anybody wants to. I don't think that's fun.
Yeah.
You know, that's just like, people are like, I'm burnt out. I'm like, all right, do you have friends? Are you doing things alone? Do you have people to support you? And it's funny. It's like such a correlation there. It's like, they're often like, no, I have like one person.
Yeah. And people always say that statement of it's lonely at the top, but it doesn't have to be, because it's a choice of building that. And I'm thinking of something really wonderful actually, because of what you just said. I've noticed that as my career has grown, I talk more to my oldest friends.
Yeah.
And I have less time today. So it doesn't make sense. So I moved to the States 10 years ago when I started my online work. And I talked to my best friend who was my best man at my wedding. I talk to him like 3 times a week right now. And I don't know where I find the time.
Yeah.
But somehow I do. And I'm thinking that's the reason I do it. I didn't even think about it that way until you've said it. I just thought, oh, our relationship's just got better. And even though he lives in a totally different time zone, we find a way to connect with each other. But it's exactly what you're saying, because my anxiety's increased.
Yeah.
And because the amount I have to hold is increased, the amount I have to give is increased, I lean more on the people in my life that have been there the longest, who know me the deepest, who know me the best. And even if I'm doing it subconsciously, that is the reason why it's happening.
Oh, 1,000%. It's interesting you say that, because like we brought on a third partner, his name's Sharon, and we work together like all day, every day. And we had a conversation like 2 weeks ago, and he came to me and he said, I had a revelation last night. I said, what? He said, we both do better the more we talk. And he's like, so let's set up like, because we'll talk in the morning, at night, whatever's convenient. We're like, cool. So we set up 3 calls a week. We're like, let's just get them so they're on the books. And we were talking about it. We're like, there's so much hard stuff to do and it weighs on us. But if you can share it with somebody and that can support you, it just feels so much lighter.
Yeah. Yeah. This idea of journaling and also taking a business from 2 to 90 million, there's this gap filled by discipline.
Yeah.
Because getting up and, like you said, you've never compromised on those habits in your career, and then being able to scale multiple businesses to 50 million your first, or 90 million with the example you just gave, that takes discipline and consistency. But one of the things we see today in the world, I think people have started to recognize discipline's important.
Yeah.
But it's the thing that we all massively struggle to build. People kind of they'll post a video every day for a week and then give up. Or people will wake up and go to the gym for a month and then give up. And we know that that's the common trait that happens. What's the difference between people who build discipline and those where it always breaks down? What's the difference between those 2 types of people?
There's no difference in the person. I think that's like the biggest fallacy that I see. People like, you're disciplined. It's like, no, you know how to build discipline. Discipline's a system. And so the easiest way to explain it is that if you want to be disciplined, make it easier to do the things that you want to do to achieve your goals and harder to do the things that work against your goals. So a great example is this. People are like, I'm just not disciplined. You know, like I'm eating ice cream every night. I just can't seem to lose weight. Well, discipline, if we look at it like a system, you have a prompt in your house. You have ice cream in your refrigerator. That's a literal trigger for you to eat the ice cream. So let's remove it. And then let's insert, I don't know, vegetable sticks, or I wouldn't do that, but like I would do like a hot cocoa, diet hot cocoa. That's a good one for me. I would put it in the same place. And so it's interesting because like when I went to lose weight, I didn't say to myself like, oh, you're a piece of shit because you can't lose weight. I was like, oh, I don't have good systems in place. How do I make it as easy as possible for me to do the steps that I need to do to lose weight? How do I make it as easy as possible for me not to drink? How do I make it so, okay, let's look up each of those. Easy as possible not to drink. Easiest thing I did. I lived with 6 people who all drank. What did I do? Moved out. Like, it's so simple, but it's like half of the trigger, like I would say 50% of my desire to drink went away immediately because I was around people doing it all the time. And it was a constant prompt. Hey, remember you like drinking, drink, prompting me all day. Now, on the other hand, when I was like, okay, I'm trying to lose weight, the first thing I did 2 things. I was like, I'm getting rid of all the junk food in my house. The second thing, I deleted and got rid of anything on my phone that I could order food with. Because what are the 2 ways that I'm going to get junk food? It's either going to be in my house or I'm going to order it. Now, if I want junk food, I've got to fucking drive. Oh my God. Now there's like so many reasons why I'm not going to do that. That doesn't mean, I think a lot of people think in order to be disciplined, it means that you have more desire. No, my desire for that ice cream was hot. But there was so much friction to get it that it's just like, fuck, I guess I'll just deal with the desire.
Yeah.
And most people have it working in the opposite direction, because a lot of people say they're like, they look at discipline. And I think discipline is just doing things consistently to get you to what you want. Lots of people do things consistently to not get what they want. You consistently eat the ice cream. You consistently don't go to the gym. So you have systems set up to make it easy for you to not achieve your goals. And so we have to switch those systems. That's it.
So good.
It's a terrible thing that so many people are like, you're not disciplined. No, you don't have the skill of building disciplined systems around you. It's such a different way to look at it. And some of these things are very easy. Like if you were to look at my phone, when I open my phone in the morning, the first thing that I have is that I have a notification for Insight Timer, which I use. And it says like time to meditate. I have meditated, it's now 179 days in a row. And that's when I first started, I'm going to meditate every day at this point in my life. The second thing I have is that I have my MyFitnessPal. And it pops up and I have a prompt on it where I put a little prompt for every time I eat, where it comes up on my phone as a reminder from my iPhone, and it says log your food. Is that discipline, or is it my environment reminding me to do something?
Yeah.
Memory is a liability. A lot of people think I need to remember. I'm going to remember that I want to lose weight and that I want to be an amazing girlfriend and that I want to build a business, and my memory and desire should create the result. That is a fallacy. There are going to be so many things that take your attention all day. So how are you going to build in systems that grab your attention? Just triggers. It's like, it could be a piece of paper. It could be a note you write for yourself. It could be not having the food in your house. It could be a friend that calls you, a text you have. We have to make it easier to achieve our goals, not harder.
That is the best breakdown of systems I've ever heard, honestly, because I've heard this idea of systems before, but the way you just put it as to how we already have systems in place that are actually failing us. And I always joke about how, to some people, like, we have the most miserable snack drawer in the world. And what I mean by that is it is full of great snacks, but they're all healthy because my wife will not allow for anything that has a certain level of sugar in the house, a certain level of this, artificial products, whatever. And it's almost like when I was a kid, I thought, God, if I ever had a house and a snack drawer, it would be full of like, Sour Patch Kids and M&Ms and this and that. My wife was like, nope. You're so right. Out of sight, out of mind. It's the simplest rule in the book. Yet we make it hard for ourselves. And then we think we're not disciplined people, and we think we're not a good person, and we think we don't care enough, and we think we don't want it enough, and we think people like us don't get there, and we internalize all these poor systems.